Brightburn wasn't that great. Okay, so I just saw the new superhero horror film by David Yarovesky. Not James Gunn, he's only the producer. No, this was directed by some other fucking jobber and written by James's brother and cousin, Mark and Brian Gunn. Please remember this, if you decide to watch this movie and go in expecting something like Slither. It's not a James Gunn film. Which sucks, because I think his style really would have helped improve the movie. So I'm going to cut through the bullshit and get right into talking about the plot and issues I have with it. The movie is a blatant retelling of Superman's origin story. It's supposed to be a parody. Alien baby crash lands to Earth, is found by a childless couple in Kansas who take him in. As the kid grows up, he realizes he has superpowers. Really basic stuff. The only key difference is that instead of becoming a stalwart defender of truth and justice, he becomes a sociopathic little shit. Yeah, this movie sold itself on the whole idea of it being evil Superman. And yes, I already know about Ultraman, who is literally just evil Superman. But this is supposed to be more of a retelling of how the kid lost his shit and became a supervillain. Which honestly has a lot of potential as a story. Chronicle, a found footage movie from 2012, tackles a concept very similarly to this one, where a loner kid is suddenly given superpowers and you see how he goes mad with power and turns completely evil. Big difference between these two movies, however, are three things. Chronicle is PG-13, while this is a very hard R. Chronicle was dealing with telekinetic abilities and played with its story in its own way and tried to be a bit more independent instead of trying to parody another superhero's origins. And finally, Chronicle was just a million times better than this. I'm just gonna come right out and say it. I didn't really like this movie that much. It's not terrible. In fact, if you go in with the right mindset, you very well could actually end up loving it. It's just that I feel as though it really gimped itself on what they could do with this concept. What could have been a very tragic story of a kid wasting his potential at turning evil, or just a straight up hilarious black comedy that skewered superheroes in a fashion similar to something like The Brat Pack or Garth Ennis's The Boys, instead just devolves into an Omen-style slasher flick. And like I said, if that's all you want, this movie could very well satisfy you. There are some fucked up kills that really feel like somebody read a superhero comic and asked, what would this do to a human being in real life? Bloody and satisfying, for sure. The major issue is that you just won't feel anything by the time the movie is over. And I don't mean in a you're disturbed by what you just watched kind of way, more in a you feel exactly the same as before the movie started sort of way. It relies way too much on just kicking its feet up and acting like the premise alone can push it to the finish line, which is really disappointing personally, because what it set up has gallons of potential if it could have used it in an interesting and fun way. So from this point on, I'm pretty much going to talk about plot stuff and spoilers completely. If you don't want to hear them, just shut the video off now, because I'm basically not going to stop until the very end. This is solely for people who have already seen Brightburn and want to hear my take on the plot. And a TLDR of my thoughts are this. Brightburn needed to commit to holding the middle finger to the superhero genre, and what started off as an amazing idea just boils down to a watchable party movie. Okay, so spoiler stuff starts now. My number one problem with Brightburn is just the fact that we never feel the weight of Brandon's transformation. He starts off as a very optimistic, warm kid, not evil in the slightest, but literally, the minute he turns 12, he starts acting like a narcissistic monster. And I get that the space pod is basically the thing turning him evil, at least from what's implied with the movie, but we never see a conflict in him over this. We don't see moments where he snaps out of it or is horrified by what he did. Brandon seems to 100% embrace the shift to evil, which could work in the movie if they did it in a bit more of a fun way, like maybe introduce like an anti-Lex Luthor type character, a rival that could parody the supervillain role by being the hero. But instead, it just feels lazy. Especially with, like I said, how he's set up in the beginning. It just feels out of character for him to immediately go mad with power and act like he's above humanity. His transformation goes as this. Brandon turns 12 in about a day or two when the movie begins. Suddenly, he can yeet a lawnmower across the yard and breaks the spinning blades with his hand. He's freaked out by this, of course. But you never really see much beyond just that lawnmower scene that you get in the trailer. Alien voices repeat in his head, repeating some kind of subliminal messaging from the pod to take the world. That's kind of the big tagline that he repeats. Whether or not Brandon turning evil was somehow part of the plan of the aliens all along is a whole other can of worms. Because if that was the case and the aliens conquer planets by sending babies to them, then Brandon is literally just a Saiyan. He throws a hissy fit at a diner about not getting a birthday present, and finds out he's an alien, and boom, he's evil. That's his entire fucking arc. Obviously, he doesn't immediately start taking heads that early into the film, but that's literally it. Brandon starts acting cold and detached from his family, snaps a girl's hand at school because he scared the shit out of her the night before by breaking into her fucking house, and he acts like she somehow betrayed him because she got creeped out by the break-in, and then kills the girl's mom for very justifiably wanting Brandon arrested for assaulting her daughter. After that, Brandon's in full sociopath mode. He starts threatening people, kills his uncle in an admittedly awesome way. That was kind of a sick scene. And he just acts like he's somehow a god among men. And like I said, I get the whole theme. People with power naturally become corrupted. It's a kid playing with flies. I get it. But in the movie, it doesn't make you care because it doesn't spend enough time showing Brandon before he was corrupted. Honestly, this is probably how the movie should have gone. There's a scene that directly drops the "he who fights monsters" quote, the Nietzsche thing. This got me thinking, since that right there showed a whole new side to the movie that it needed to explore. Brandon never once tries using his powers for good, and that sort of makes the scene at the end where he tells his mom, "I want to do good," super frustrating, because he literally never even tries to do that. But anyway, the plot should have had more time to flesh out Brandon's fall. This is a pretty short movie, only about 91 minutes. You can point to the budget and say that probably affected things, which is more than likely true. It was only made for about $7 million, but better writing definitely could have helped things out. So what the movie should have done is one of two things. A, completely dedicate 100% to Brandon being controlled by the pod. He's not in control of his actions, and explore more of a body horror type angle, like something like Upgrade. Brandon is doing all these terrible things to people, and he can't stop himself no matter how much he fights against it. That could have made the "I want to do good" line very powerful, since we see that Brandon doesn't want to hurt anyone. It's the programming from the spaceship that's doing it. Or, and this is how I personally would have done it with option B, show Brandon try to be a superhero, and fuck up horrendously. Really dedicate to being that personal fuck you to superheroes that this is very clearly trying to be. Now, the first third of the movie can be about Brandon discovering his powers, getting delusions in his head of being a superhero, like a lot of other superhero origin stories. And maybe at first he uses the powers to help out around the farm, lifting up tractors so his dad can fix stuff, or, flying up to the roof so he can replace the shingles when they go bad. Just really mundane stuff, and using his hyper-intelligence to ace tests in school. Do shit that a kid with superpowers in Kansas would do. Later on, in the second third of the movie, he can decide to become a superhero, naming himself Brightburn. Keep that title and keep the title that they obviously want to give the supervillain. Maybe even have a scene where he's watching a superhero movie on TV and gets inspired. He designs the costume, which they can keep the design from the actual movie. I actually like the look a lot. It feels like something a kid would make. But whenever he tries to help anyone, it falls apart spectacularly. He tries to stop a mugging, and the mugger's head flies off. He tries to stop a bus crash, bus gets ripped in half and all the passengers are dead. Everything he does blows up in his face, and Brandon is desperately trying to fix everything he broke. And eventually is seen as a monstrous supervillain. Things just keep piling up around him, and he doesn't know what to do to set it right. Over time, Brandon can grow numb to it all, just completely unaffected by all the death he causes over time since he's so used to it. Maybe even start teasing the idea that he starts to find it fun. And as things go on, he becomes darker, more withdrawn, more violent. Then you could actually have all the shit that's already in the movie start to play out. He starts attacking classmates, especially ones that pick on him, like what they set up in the beginning of the movie that's just never addressed again. And as his family slowly learns about what's going on, they start to fear him. Brandon definitely still needs to be sympathetic though, so he's not a complete emotionless monster just yet. The disappointment from his mother and father over getting in trouble at school could really affect him, and he starts lashing out at other townsfolk as Brightburn, kind of keep it as his alter ego for when he needs to let go of aggression. Like I said, parroting superheroes by making it to where his alter ego is a horrible monster. This can include the scene of the diner murder alongside maybe one or two more random people that were just in the wrong place at the wrong time. But it needs to be absolutely crystal clear that Brandon is still basically just throwing a temper tantrum whenever these things happen. He's still a kid and not a killer. Maybe the deaths at first can be completely accidental. Brandon just wanted to scare people and things lead to other things which wind up with people dead. Parodying the superhero trope of the hero saves the day by having it to where the hero fucked up so royally a bunch of people fucking died. Eventually, however, his family finds out what happens, keeping it closer to the movie like I said. Keep the Uncle Noah death, mainly because that was a fucking awesome kill. But make it to where that's the first completely intentional murder. Change the script to have it to where Noah finds out Brandon is Brightburn and is rushing to the police station to tell them. Throw in a line or two about how Noah's cell phone died, or address the fact that Brandon's electrical interference is fucking with his phone. Something that completely cuts him off from help. Brandon, obviously freaking out that Noah's about to rat him out to the pigs, stops the truck with his powers, tries to intimidate Noah, and basically just kind of have it to where, yeah, Brandon fucking kills him. Now, the reasoning for the murder, at least at this point in my mind of how it should be, is that Brandon is trying to justify to himself that it's to keep his secret safe. But there obviously needs to be a clear implication that he killed Noah because he was pissed off at him, that he felt like his family just betrayed him. After that, Brandon is pretty much beginning to slide into the level he's at the movie. Detached, losing his sympathy for humans, and just all around is becoming kind of a jerk. His father can become wary of him, and like I said, this can basically just be how it is in the movie right now. Play it out exactly like how it does. Brandon and his dad go on the hunting trip, his dad tries to shoot him, and this completely pushes him over the edge. He kills his dad, kills the police, destroys the farmhouse. Like I said, just have the ending to the movie as it is now. But instead of having him drop his mom out of the sky like it is, it needs to be a lot more brutal and a lot more personal. This is supposed to be the ultimate betrayal. The one that completely cuts him off from the rest of mankind and pushes him fully into villain mode. So the idea here is, like I said, for the most part, it'll play out like the movie. The mother is trying to find her son so she can stab him with the piece of the ship that she gets, the one that she breaks off and knows can cut him. So Brandon finds her, but instead of the mother breaking down in tears and begging, Brandon not to hurt her and all that crap, I say Brandon's the one that falls apart instead. He's the one that starts crying and decides to hug his mother. So Brandon is just crying and profusely apologizing, trying to explain everything that happened, but he's just falling apart because he's still a kid. I mean, despite everything that happened, Brandon is still just a kid, not a hyper-intelligent supervillain. He's just a dumb kid that doesn't know what he's doing. Once again, that's where the "I want to do good" line could have really had a lot more impact. Then his mother can attempt to stab him because she's scared shitless, and Brandon loses his shit for the last time. But instead of dropping her out of the sky, like I said, I say that he punches her head into paste. Like the kill at the end of Sin City, when Bruce Willis punches the yellow guy's head into just complete mush. Brandon is consumed with rage and just lets it all out against his mom. After that, have him take down the jetliner and play out the ending like normal. He's evil now and emotionally dead. So, those are just my ideas on what could have made the story better, just fleshing it out a bit more, trying to really build up Brandon as the evil Superman, because it should have just taken his origin story and flipped it on its head. And I get that that's what the movie as it is tries to do, but I feel like it's just so lazy with how they do it. It's just, he goes crazy, starts killing everybody. That's it. There is no clever twist on the superhero formula. And that's why I'm saying, if they have it to where he tries at first to be a superhero, but he just screws up, that really could have been at least a more clever way of doing it. It would have shown that Brandon was still a kid when he had these powers. He just didn't know how to use them correctly, and he ended up hurting people. And in his own twisted way, he found pleasure in hurting people. Just having it to where he immediately starts hurting people that piss him off. He immediately thinks he's this alpha predator. I don't know, it just feels like you're taking a shortcut, and it sucks, because this premise deserves more than shortcuts. So, maybe you don't think my ideas for the plot are the best. But, like I said, it's still better than the bare bones we got. Now, if you guys liked the movie as it is, that's awesome. Like I said, you go in the right mindset, you're gonna love this fucking movie. But I had some serious issues with it that really kept it from being amazing to me. And I know it's not Oscar-winning material. It's a dumb superhero horror movie. But, I don't know. Maybe I just wanted something that could have genuinely disturbed me or really explored this concept to the fullest. Like I said, if James Gunn got the helm at this and really was allowed to just go nuts, it could have been great. It could have been a really twisted, fun superhero movie that really skewered the genre in the way it needed to be. I will say, however, that Michael Rooker playing an Alex Jones newscaster was kind of fucking amazing. Damn near made the movie worth it just for that scene at the end. So, definitely check that out. It's the best part of the fucking movie. Alright, have a good one.